Some betrayals don't knock. They slither in with lemonade and laughter. It was one of those picture-perfect afternoons at the lake. Crisp air, gentle breeze, sun glinting off the water like glass. You'd think nothing dark could bloom in a place so bright. My name is Alana Brooks, and before I tell you how my life got turned upside down at a family brunch, I need you to do something. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. Now, let's rewind. That day, I'd just come in from rinsing my hands at the dock, the cold lake water still clinging to my fingers. I opened my banking app to approve some routine business payments, nothing dramatic, just a few clicks. But the screen didn't show numbers. It showed a zero. Nothing. Not a glitch. Not a delay. Just a void. I stared. Refreshed the page. Once. Twice. Still zero. 6 years of work, savings, late nights, early mornings, missed vacations, skipped birthdays gone. And just as my stomach sank, I looked up to see him. Damien, my brother-in-law, leaning back on the deck chair, sipping lemonade like it was the nectar of the gods, smiling like he'd just told a joke I didn't catch. "We needed it more than you," he said, like he was complimenting the weather. And everyone kept chewing, kept laughing, kept pretending they didn't just hear my heart crash through the floorboards. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. That wasn't the moment I broke. That was the moment I woke up. You see, I grew up thinking family was your soft landing, the place you fall and bounce back safe. I was raised in Mobile, Alabama, in a house that always smelled like cornbread and pledge. My mama ran a little lunch catering service. My daddy fixed anything that had hinges or wires or a pulse. They built their lives and mine on 3 rules: work hard, stay honest, and never take what ain't yours. But my younger sister, Lena had a smile that made people forget rules even existed. While I was organizing invoices and scrubbing trays, she was chasing glitter, fast friends, fast thrills, fast love. And I kept covering for her, paying small bills, telling myself she'd settle when life got real. Then life did get real. Real cruel. A car accident. Both our parents gone in one summer afternoon. I swear I could still hear their laughter ringing in the hallway when the lawyer handed us 2 manila envelopes. One for me, one for Lena. A modest inheritance. I took mine and started Brooks & Company. Celebrations, a boutique event business focused on outdoor events that felt like joy made visible. Lena? She spent hers on a man. Damien Blakely. He was a storm in designer shoes. Loud. Charming. Always in motion. Always making Lena feel like she was living a movie. And before I could blink, they were married. But that sparkle in Lena's voice? It dimmed. Her smile? It hesitated. She answered texts with delay. Calls went to voicemail. When I finally asked what was going on, she just said, "He wants what's best for us." But her eyes told a different story. So when our cousin Tasha invited everyone to a family reset weekend at a lake house just across the Georgia border, I held on to hope. Foolishly. Because hope, especially the kind we cling to in exhaustion, can be the most dangerous thing we carry. I packed folding chairs, a few fresh-cut daisies, and my best tablecloth, because if we were going to gather, I wanted it to look like love. What I didn't know was that betrayal was already in motion. And it was wearing my sister's husband's smile. Are you still with me? If this story is hitting somewhere in your chest, let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you before I dive deeper. Upstairs, in that beautiful lake house, something was already wrong. And the first clue? It was so small I almost missed it. You ever feel it in your bones? That whisper that says something's not right? That's what happened when I went upstairs to grab my phone charger from the guest room. My laptop was still there on the dresser, right where I left it, but not how I left it. The screen was tilted at an unfamiliar angle. The charger was plugged into the wrong port. And when I touched the keyboard, it was warm. Someone had used it. Recently. I sat down, heartbeat crawling up my throat, and opened the browser history. Empty. Not just empty. Wiped. Clean. Like a crime scene someone had polished down to the floorboards. I sat there frozen, listening to the sounds of laughter echoing from the patio below. Kids chasing bubbles. The clink of forks. Someone playing old-school R&B low on a speaker. A family gathering, full of sun and sizzle and the false comfort of routine. But I knew then. Something was off. And it had its fingerprints all over my laptop. Still, I went back downstairs, pretending like I hadn't just touched the ghost of a betrayal. I set out the fruit tray. I laughed when Uncle Curtis made fun of my always-on-the-clock vibe. I smiled at Lena, though her eyes never met mine for more than a second. And Damien? He was holding court, telling stories too loud, grinning too wide, touching people's arms like charm was a currency he could spend endlessly. I watched him raise a glass of lemonade to his lips like he was in the center of a quiet storm swirling under that patio. I told myself maybe I was tired. Maybe I was reading into things. Maybe it was just my grief, my stress, my imagination. But then my phone buzzed under the table. A message from Monica, my operations manager. Reliable. Sharp. The spine of Brooks and Company. Hey Alana, the tent vendor just called. Our payment bounced. You moving funds around?
No.
No, I wasn't. I replied with trembling fingers.
No.
Checking now. I opened the banking app again, my breath catching in my throat. Still zero. No emergency fund. No business reserve. No cushion. Just emptiness. I refreshed again, desperate, like I could will the money back with stubbornness. But the numbers didn't change. They just sat there, lifeless, mocking me. I stood up too fast. My chair screeched against the wooden deck, drawing a few glances. I need a second, I managed to say. But the words felt thin, fragile, like a paper boat trying to hold back the ocean. I stepped off the patio and called the bank with fingers that wouldn't stay still. I was breathing like I'd just run a mile. My voice cracked as I gave them my name, my business, my info. The representative's voice was calm.
Too calm.
She said, multiple transfers were made this morning. All verified by correct credentials, including security questions. The login came from a recognized device. Recognized device? My mouth went dry. That's impossible, I whispered. But I knew better. My laptop. Upstairs. The wiped history. The warmth still clinging to the keys. I ended the call and walked back to that patio like I was walking into a battlefield with no armor. The sun still shone, the food was still warm, the music still played, and I was about to set the whole day on fire. If you've ever trusted someone with too much, only to feel that sting of betrayal later, leave a broken heart in the comments. I'm reading everything. I see you. When I told them the money was gone, the silence that followed changed everything. And then Damien said something that made my blood freeze. I wish I could tell you that when I stood on that patio and told them my money was gone, someone jumped up to help. That there was outrage. Solidarity. But no. Silence hit like a brick wall. Plates stopped midair. Forks hung in suspended disbelief. Aunt Denise blinked slowly, like her brain was buffering the information. Even the kids quieted down, as if they sensed the weight in the air. What do you mean gone? Tasha asked, slowly rising to her feet. I held up my phone. My hand was shaking, but my voice somehow, it stayed calm. Every dollar. Business accounts, emergency reserves, everything. Gone overnight.
People gasped.
Someone muttered a soft Jesus. I turned my eyes to Lena. She looked like she was about to faint. Her fingers clutched her cup so tightly I swore it might shatter. But Damien? He didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Didn't even tighten his jaw. He leaned back, smirking like he was watching a daytime soap play out live. Tasha stepped closer to me, trying to fix it with her tone. Alana, maybe there's a glitch. Call the bank again. It has to be a mistake. I did, I said flat. They confirmed the transfers. Correct passwords. Right security questions. Recognized device. Aunt Denise frowned. Like your phone? No, I said, my eyes sliding toward the open patio door. My laptop. That was when Lena's mouth opened like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. Just silence. Like fear had her tongue. I turned to Damien. You were near my laptop yesterday. His smug expression didn't twitch. But Lena? She snapped her head toward me. Wait, Alana, were you in my room? I didn't even look at her. I kept my eyes on the man who was still sipping lemonade like this was all beneath him. Damien, I said calmly. Too calmly. If you didn't do anything, show us your bank statement. You should want answers more than anyone, right? His lips curled into a half smile. He lifted his glass like a toast and said it. We needed it more than you. And just like that, the whole patio dropped into hell. Aunt Denise gasped. Tasha cursed under her breath. My uncle stood up like he was ready to throw something. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. Because that wasn't an accident. That wasn't a slip-up. That was a confession. Lena's eyes filled with tears, but she still didn't defend me. She stared down at the table like it might open up and swallow her whole. I could feel my stomach icing over, my chest tightening. They didn't do this because they were desperate. They did it because they believed I'd take it. Like I always had. I grabbed my bag from the chair. Damien's eyes tracked it like he was suddenly worried. What are you doing? He snapped. I looked at him, and for the first time, I wasn't scared. I was in control. You won't mind what happens next, I said softly. And the room, the patio, the world went silent. Damien stood abruptly, chair scraping against the wood like my calm scared him more than my rage ever could. You're not calling anybody, he growled, stepping toward me. But Tasha's husband, Malik, moved fast, positioned himself right between us, shoulders squared like a shield. Back. Up, Malik said, voice low and final. Damien laughed, but it didn't land. It cracked around the edges. And then, finally, Lena stood up. Her voice trembled. Damien, please. He didn't even look at her. He grabbed her wrist like she was an object, a possession. Something in me snapped, and it wasn't anger. It was clarity. Lena, I said, my tone even. Tell me the truth.
Right now.
What is really going on? Her eyes flicked to mine. Haunted, desperate, breaking. She opened her mouth. And Damien's grip tightened. Don't say a word. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about stolen money. This was about power.
Control.
Manipulation. And I was done playing nice. If you were standing in my shoes, what would you have done right there? Let me know in the comments because this moment, it changed everything. I pulled out my phone. Damien lunged, but he was too late. And what I did next turned that peaceful patio into a scene no one would ever forget. I didn't scream.
I didn't yell.
I pulled out my phone like it was any other day, any other call. But this call? It wasn't to beg. It was to report. 911. What's your emergency?
Yes.
My name is Alana Brooks. I'm at a private lake house just across the Georgia-South Carolina border. Ongoing financial fraud. The suspect is here. Damien's eyes narrowed. He barked out a laugh that landed like a dare. The police? Over a little money? Sweetheart, you think they care? But I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because the air around us had shifted. The laughter was gone. The excuses were gone. People stood frozen, blinking as reality started sinking in. And while Damien was too busy posturing, I remembered something important. 3 months earlier, after someone had tried to breach my business email, I installed a new security system on my laptop. Quiet, invisible. It tracked every login, every file accessed, every keystroke. It even took photos. Damien didn't know any of that. He thought clearing browser history erased reality. So, I looked him in the eye and whispered the only word that mattered. We'll wait. Lena looked like she might collapse. Her legs were wobbling. Damien's confidence began to crack, slow, but clear. He tried to play it cool. Lena, go pack your stuff. We're leaving. But she didn't move. Not this time. Her fingers gripped the hem of her sweater like they were holding her together. And then I saw it, the battle. Inside her. Years of shrinking. Years of being told who she was and who she wasn't allowed to be. Lena, I said gently. You don't have to protect him anymore. Damien's head snapped toward me. Stay out of my marriage. But before I could speak, Aunt Denise stepped in. Let her speak. Damien faltered. Just a little. For the first time since I met him, he looked uncertain. Lena's voice was almost a whisper. I didn't know how to stop him. The entire patio stilled. I told him no, she continued. I said it wasn't right, that you worked too hard. He said family money should stay in the family. He said you'd figure it out. I swallowed hard. Tears welled, but I didn't blink. I wanted to hear everything. He made me type the answers, she whispered. He said if I didn't help, he'd leave me with nothing. He took my phone. Read my messages. He told me I was nothing without him. Damien snapped. You're lying. But his voice cracked like glass. You check my messages, Lena said, her voice growing stronger. You told me I was lucky you didn't leave. That no one else would want me. I took a slow, grounding breath. Lena, did he use my laptop? She nodded. After everyone went to bed last night. He said you'd never know. Damien lunged, wild now, all charm gone. You stupid. Enough, boomed Uncle Curtis. His voice was pure thunder, the kind that silences rooms and raises spines. You stole from my niece. Then, a loud knock echoed through the lake house. A sharp bang at the front door. Someone screamed. Tasha gripped my arm. What was that? But I already knew. Footsteps thudded across the wooden deck. 3 uniformed officers stepped into view, followed by a tall black woman in plain clothes with steel in her eyes and a badge around her neck. Who reported the fraud? She asked. I did, I said, stepping forward. Alana Brooks. She gave a nod that carried weight. Detective Jordan. We've reviewed the bank's flagged activity. Multiple logins traced back to a device registered to you. Damien tried to recover.
Fast.
Anyone could have used it. It was just sitting out. I didn't. Good, I said quietly, and handed her my phone. She opened the folder and scrolled.
Click. Click.
Photo after photo. Damien at my laptop. His hands on the keys. His face lit by the glow of my screen. Timestamps. Device IDs.
Keystroke logs.
Every single
lie.
Detective Jordan turned to her officers. Turn around, Mr. Blakely. Hands behind your back. Damien stumbled backward, shaking his head. No, this is crazy. 2 officers moved. Quick, efficient. Lena, he shouted. Tell them you helped. You told me to do it. Lena stepped forward. Not to him, to me. You did this, she whispered. And I'm done covering for you. The cuffs clicked behind his back. His wedding ring clinked against the steel. You think you're better than me now? He spat. Lena met his eyes, steady through the tears. I was nothing with you. And with that, they led him away, his voice shrinking with every step toward the squad car. The moment the police car doors slammed shut, something lifted. The air felt lighter, like the whole world had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. Lena collapsed into my arms,
crying.
But it wasn't fear. It was freedom. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I didn't know how to leave. You did, I whispered. Today. Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. The officers left, but the damage Damien caused didn't walk away with him. What he tried to destroy wasn't just financial. And I wasn't about to let him win. The squad cars had rolled away. The patio was still. No one reached for their plates anymore. The breeze moved gently through the trees, but no one noticed the wind. Everyone had seen it now, who Damien really was. What he was willing to do. What I had survived. Lena sat beside Aunt Denise, her face pale but her shoulders softer. For the first time in years, she didn't look like she was bracing for something. Detective Jordan stayed behind a few minutes longer. She asked careful questions, not just about what happened today, but about access, passwords, intent. When she looked at Lena, she didn't flinch. We'll get a victim advocate involved, she said gently. And request an emergency protective order. Lena nodded slowly, her hands twisting in her lap, like she was trying to unwind years of tension. But my mind was already moving. Because Damien didn't just steal money. He stole stability. He tried to poison my reputation, bounced payments, angry vendors, confused clients. I could already hear it in my head. Can Alana really handle my event? What if her business folds? I wasn't going to let that happen. After the police left and the family began murmuring again in small, shaken voices, I walked away from the crowd and called Monica, my operations manager. She picked up on the first ring. Alana, thank God. Vendors are blowing up my phone. What's going on? I'm okay, I said. Here's what I need you to do. Right now. I gave her instructions like the businesswoman I was: tight, clear, exact. Freeze all outgoing payments except payroll. Email every vendor. Explain there was verified fraud. Police report filed. Funds being restored. Request a 72-hour grace period. Create a backup account. Route all client payments there. Set up client check-in calls for the week. Daytime only. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "You sound calm."
I'm not calm, I said.
I'm focused. Damien took money. He's not taking my future. Next, I called my attorney, Maya Linford, a woman who never raised her voice, but somehow made entire rooms fall silent. After I explained everything, she said, "I want you to document every single impact, every payment failure, every client complaint. This man didn't just commit fraud. He attempted business interference. Can we go after him?" "Oh," she said calmly, "we will. Civil court, baby. Let the state handle the crime. We're going after the cost."
And we did.
But that wasn't the most important thing that happened that week. The most important thing happened the morning Lena showed up at my front door with one suitcase, one old blanket, and a paper bag full of baking ingredients. She walked into my house like someone who didn't believe she was allowed to be safe yet. That first night, after I made tea and tucked a spare quilt into the guest bed, she stood in the hallway like a child. "I don't deserve your kindness," she whispered. I looked at her, heart heavy, but steady. "You don't have to earn safety, Lena. You just have to choose it." She exhaled, and for the first time since we were girls, I saw her lay down her armor. And while she slept, I sat at my kitchen table, lit by soft light and a laptop that was mine again, not stolen. I wasn't angry anymore. I was something sharper.
Certain.
The next morning, I held an emergency meeting with vendors and key clients at a local park pavilion. I didn't hide. I didn't soften it. I stood in sunlight with a printed copy of the police report and said, "There was fraud. There was betrayal. But there is no disruption. Every contract is honored. Every event is protected. This business isn't folding. It's reinforcing." And then I did what Damien never thought I'd do. I filed a civil suit, not just for the stolen funds, but for the bounced fees, the vendor penalties, the reputational damage. I also requested a court order barring him from ever contacting me, my staff, or my clients again. Maya smiled when we filed it. This is where men like him lose their power. Paperwork and proof. 2 weeks later, Detective Jordan called again. We tracked the transfers. He tried to split it across multiple accounts, but we froze most of it. Also, her voice grew quiet. "This isn't the first time." My stomach turned. Other women?
Yes.
Other financial manipulation cases. But this time, he's facing full prosecution. I hung up, walked into the kitchen, and found Lena covered in flour, bent over a mixing bowl like she was trying to bake peace into existence. She looked up, eyes wide. "What did they say?" I leaned against the doorway. "He's being charged with more than what he did to me." Her mouth fell open. Shame started crawling up her face again. "Don't take that weight back," I said gently. "You already dropped it. I keep thinking if I'd just said something earlier." "If you had," I interrupted, "he would have just found a different way. That's what people like him do."
But you spoke now.
"And you're safe now. That's what matters." She blinked fast, tears rising. Then she pushed a plate toward me.
"Here.
Taste this." It was a warm pastry, sweet, soft, like the opposite of everything she'd been surviving. I took a bite and smiled. "That's your gift, Lena." Not him. Not the pain.
You.
And she laughed. Not loud, but real. Like Joy had finally remembered her name. A few weeks later, our family gathered again. This time for real healing. Not secrets. Not whispers. We met in daylight at a public park near the lake, under wide trees and open sky. Lena stood beside me, not small, not sorry, just whole. She raised her voice and said, I need to say something. I'm not asking you to forget what happened. I'm asking you to stop confusing love with silence. Because silence is what he used to trap me. The family stood still. No one argued. And then she added, Alana didn't just save her business. She saved me. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure I'm never the reason someone else gets hurt. I hugged her, right there in the sunlight. You're not my enemy, I whispered. You're my sister. And you came back. She didn't collapse. She just let go. A month later, the civil case moved forward. Damien tried to glare at me across the courtroom, but he looked smaller now.
Hollow.
Stripped of his swagger. The judge granted the restraining order. The damages claim advanced. He couldn't contact me, couldn't reach my business, couldn't use family as a doorway ever again. And I slept. Finally. By the time the next season arrived, Brooks and Company was thriving again. Stronger systems, new contracts, a new team lead. I even launched a new series of events called the Sunlit Series, celebrations built around fresh air and clean starts. Lena got a job with one of my vendor partners. She joined a support group. She started saying no like it was a sentence. One day, she came into my office and said, I think I'm ready for my own place. I smiled. That's not just ready. That's healed. As she left that day, I watched her walk into the sun. And I didn't feel like a woman who survived betrayal. I felt like a woman who mastered it. Because here's what I know now. Being the strong one doesn't mean you're meant to be used. It means you're meant to be respected. And if someone mistakes your loyalty for weakness, let them meet your strength in daylight, where everyone can see. If this story hit you in any way, if you've ever been used, silenced, or made to feel guilty for protecting yourself, drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life.